Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to the Monday, March 31st, 2014 issue of Intelligence Report with voiceformen.com and shrinkformen.com. I, as usual, am Dean Esmay, Operations Manager for A Voice for Men, with a snazzy new logo. Don't you wish you were me? I know I do. With me, as always, is the toothsome, tempestuous, and terrifying Dr. Tara Palmatier. Say hi, Dr. T.
Nice alliteration, Dean. Hello.
Hello. And kitten-chewing, misogynist, rapist, wife-beating, generally really nice guy, Paul Elam.
I feel cheated out of alliterations, but I'll say hello to everybody anyway.
Kitten crunching curmudgeon.
That's how you do this job.
Okay, I bow to your superior abilities, Dr. T. And sitting next to Paul is a crazy, scary, soulless ginger bastard, Sage Gerard, the Collegiate Activism Director of A Voice for Men, who's down in the Houston compound for a visit. How you doing today, Sage?
I am excellent. How are you?
Fine, fine, fine. All right, we have some fun stories to cover today. As usual, we all picked out stories we wanted to talk about. I found myself just about 3 minutes before air going, why did I pick my stories? Because all of a sudden I realized I don't want to talk about this, but we have to, because we said we would. We've seen some commentary on the men's rights movement again recently, this time in both Slate and Huffington Post, and none of it's in it. Well, one of the commentary in Slate was interesting, but I'll start with and I can't say her last name, Theriault, something like that, who basically says the men's rights movement sucks, a big pile of nuclear weasel penis. No, what she actually says is that we're garbage. Okay, thank you, Anne. I wanted to go through some of her points. Everybody in this list in this hangout has heard this list of lies and bullshit before, but I'll go ahead and pick out some perfect points. Number one, she says, let's get one thing straight. Men as a group do not face systemic oppression because of their gender. Men do not face oppression because they are men. Misandry is not actually a thing. Response, anybody?
Well, shit, I think we can go home now.
That's it. Matter of fact,
turns out this whole thing was a waste. We got these investments in. And
I'll be shutting down A Voice for Men this evening, getting that done with. I want to thank everybody for the last fundraiser, but hey, you know, misandry don't reel, so what can I say?
You know, I'm sorry to tell you, Anne, but having experienced it firsthand and seen other guys who've gone through it, yes, we do. And it doesn't matter whether they're black guys, gay guys, Latino guys, white guys, it doesn't matter. Yes, we do. You see it in the education system, you see it in healthcare, you see it in all sorts of areas where people treat you contempt just for being a person in need. And I don't think anybody in this hangout will disagree with me on that.
No, I will.
She also makes...
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to go on with her 3 or 4 other stupid points, because they are stupid and ignorant and bigoted, but go ahead, Paul, what?
Well, I just wanted to say, I mean, and I don't know what other stupid points she had to make. I mean, I'm sure they're repetitions, more or less, of everything we've heard before. But this is just, to me, more evidence of what appears to be what we used to call in the old days in the psych field, being organic and incapable of learning. There is some sort of head trauma there, or I don't know, you know, some damage caused by drug excess or whatever. But feminists of this ilk, anyway, I mean, we're seeing a lot of them start to change and saying, well, yeah, there are these issues and everything, and we're the ones addressing them, and so they tell a different variety of lie. But this sounds like somebody that's brand new to attacking the men's rights movement. So they're coming in with the last year stuff. No, none of this is real. It's all made up. No such thing as misandry. Men don't face any discrimination. Men were certainly never forced as a class at gunpoint into wars or into slavery, and they're certainly not happening now. None of that stuff's happening. So this is like, yeah, I understand why you did the story, and then why 3 minutes before the hangout you think, why did I do this? It's necessary to sort of remind people of the mentality of some of these feminists, but it's also just a reminder of who we're dealing with. They're fucking morons.
Well, I would call it aggressive ignorance. I mean, I remember something an old teacher of mine taught me. There's a difference between stupid and ignorant. Stupid means you can't understand something. Ignorant just means you don't understand it. And aggressive ignorance is when you don't understand it and you go out of your way not to understand it. And that's the root of bigotry.
Yeah, and then you got all the equivocation and this aggressive ignorance comes back to just when you get to cognitive dissonance at all. The shortest route to getting rid of that cognitive dissonance and to remind yourself that every lie you told yourself was actually true is just to deny the contrary evidence. It's the most convenient way, right? Like it's just always going to be this repetition, because some people really do think that so long as they keep repeating the same shit, it will remain true. I love it.
Right. So discrimination in the criminal justice system, which we know is true for men of all races, that doesn't exist. Poor treatment in the family court system that discriminates against men of all races, that doesn't exist either. We get it, Ann. We get it. Thank you for your aggressive ignorance. She says a few other things that are false. So I want to hit them real quick. MRAs believe that feminists are blamed for basically everything that's wrong with their lives. Who in this conversation believes that? Raise your hand.
Well, I got some bad Chinese food the other day, and I'm pretty sure a feminist was behind it, Dean.
Okay, but other than that, I don't see your hand up.
No.
And you know why? Most of the MRAs I know do not believe that feminism is to blame for everything that's wrong with their lives, or even everything wrong with men's lives. There's a few that do, who think all discrimination against men comes from feminists. I don't happen to be one of them. I think it comes from multiple sources. But feminists are sure the worst enablers of it. Would we agree with that?
Well, I don't know. I think feminists are maybe the most visible enablers of it, but I also believe that white knights of more tradcon traditionalist values have a lot sort of easier road to enforcing the things that discriminate against men. I don't want to leave them out of the picture. Feminism is an ill. It's a symptom of the same problem that we have with tradcons, though. So are they the worst at it? The core problem is misandry and male disposability, and so which is a very cultural problem.
Sorry, Tara, what?
Well, misandry predates feminism, but what my belief is that feminism as a collective political group has been very, very vocal in getting legislature passed that does oppress men. VAWA. Look at family court today. It's the new killing fields for families.
With a lot of help from traditions.
And anytime a new law is proposed to make family law more fair, to remove the biases against fathers, you've got now and other feminist groups who are all up in arms saying, oh no, the courts being more equal will somehow harm women. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, I tend to agree. All right, I'm going to blow through a couple of more of her points. She says that MRAs attend feminist events in order to bully and intimidate women. Projection just is in a room in the back of the theater, and
it was fucking MRA that pulled the fire alarm last time. That's
right.
That is an exact inversion.
Big fucking awful red color hair and the black frame glasses and told everyone to shut the fuck up on the streets. That's what happened.
That's an exact inversion of a reality, Ann, and you know it. She claims they flood online feminist space with threatening messages. Yeah, because if anytime anybody ever says anything rude to a woman on the internet ever, that was an MRA attacking a feminist, right?
I called a woman bossy the other day. I think that was the reason. I'm sorry.
That must have been what it is. And they make women who refuse to back down afraid for their physical safety. And she links the case of Nick Redding and Raz at Men's Rights Edmonton catching two feminists tearing down men's rights posters and putting them on camera and asking them to explain why they were vandalizing those posters. That was supposedly terrorizing those women and making them afraid of their physical safety. Misandry much?
You need to understand accountability, holding someone accountable if it's a woman, is bullying and controlling.
Yep, exactly. Approaching her and asking her a question.
Even if she's destroying,
right?
Something that isn't her property, yes.
That's right. Misandry not real? Misandry is when you assume that there's something violent and dangerous about a man approaching you and asking you a question, Anne. Especially when you've just committed a crime. They do literally nothing to resolve the problems that they claim to care about. Once again,
I haven't watched that video in a while, but didn't the two women who vandalized the poster? They didn't seem to be trembling in fear. In fact, I seem to recall that they gave those two gentlemen the finger as they walked away.
That's something that should be pointed out. You know, when you're walking down the street, and it was a dark street, with two MRAs asking you questions, and you're bold enough to stick this up in their face. Now, is that a symbol of fear? That's a sign of two people that couldn't be less afraid of what was going on. And I mean, my God. It's embarrassing. It's just embarrassing to have to quantify the stupid in this kind of commentary from a feminist.
But wait, it gets better. So, and then Dean, I'm sorry to hijack, but I clicked on Anne Trio's body of blogging work on the MuffPo, and other titles that she's penned are heroines of literature and film. You don't have to be pretty. Don't fat shame. Don't thin shame. All bodies are good bodies. An International Women's Day alphabet, and I shit you not, the entire post is A is for Austin, the Regency hellion.
Oh,
B
Jesus.
is for Boudica, who raised a rebellion. C is for Cleopatra, fierce queen of the Nile. So this is a blogger on MuffPo who basically published a 4th grade, I don't know what the hell you call that, How to Undermine a Rape Victim, Woody Allen edition.
Tara, I take strong exception. You have just insulted the nation's 4th graders. I have a 4th grader.
But wait, there's another one.
I'm curious.
What Miley Cyrus did was disgusting, but not for the reasons you think. And last one, stop telling me I have problem skin. And I should take anything this person has to say seriously. Why?
She claims we do absolutely nothing to resolve the problems that they claim to care about, like all the fundraisers we've done for various nonprofit groups, all the men we've talked out of suicide. Tara, you do nothing to help men, now do you? You just, well, I don't know, all day, every fucking day, it's what you do for a living, but hey, what the hell.
Well, certainly we're not going to count getting corrupt judges to recuse themselves so that decent good fathers can get custody of their children back from an alcoholic abuser. That's not advocacy either. We don't do anything. You're absolutely right.
No rally demonstrations, no poster campaigns.
Nothing.
Getting a false accuser arrested. Yeah. Helping get an innocent man out of jail. Yeah, no, we don't do those things, right?
Oh.
What was so fascinating is toward the end we saw, and I guess this is part of what caught my eye. Toward the end, she starts listing off areas that are of legitimate concern to us, like male suicide, male homelessness, even women abusing and raping their male spouses and boyfriends. So she admits this happens.
But then she blamed it on men because that they've been socialized not to ask for help. So it's men's fault that they're not getting help. Never mind that there are, with the exception of one shelter, I believe in San Diego, there are no shelters for male domestic violence.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute, here it comes.
Here it comes.
Literally, she says, patriarchy hurts men too.
Oh my fucking god!
Of course, you stupid dude who has the audacity to complain about any of this, check your privilege. You pampered, privileged, white asshole, shut up and to rolled, or whatever the hell, however you.
I like the most recent
privileged white asshole.
I like the most recent rebuttal to patriarchy hurts men too. I heard on my comment section of my channel. He said, "Well, that's not patriarchy, then, is it?"
And then while we're on the stupid, I'm going to go ahead and mention, and then we'll move on to something more interesting.
No, but
we have Slade.
Before you do that, I want to stick to that point again. I want to issue a challenge, please, to all the feminists and any other morons out there. Please explain how patriarchy hurts men when it's a system that's designed to benefit them at the expense of women. So if you'll come up with an explanation for that, which I'm sure you can, and it'll be like A is for asshole. But I want an answer to that question.
And you know, I have yet to get a memo apologizing for me not getting my factory last year. The fucking patriarchy owes me some shit.
They really do. I'm looking for. I think I deserve at least a governorship for all the work I've done for the patriarchy. I think I should at least be governor of Michigan by now. Okay, and related, we have a Troy Patterson advice columnist in Slate. See, Slate's starting to pay attention to us too, but they're wanting to also dismiss us. I'm going to quote from this guy, this good little doggy, Troy Patterson. I have no general thoughts on the men's rights movement. I am familiar with the fact that a number of dudes out there feel themselves categorically oppressed, and I have the sure sense that a number of people with whom I generally tend to agree about these things regard these dudes with a combination of sadness and spite, and I have been ambiently encouraged to believe that the movement in question is defined by the grotesque rhetorical excesses of its biggest creeps. Though that last point generally helps me to feel okay about not really caring about any of this. He then admits we might have a couple of good points too, but then says, doesn't good critical thinking involve deciding what not to think about? So, this is an advice column on how to be a gentleman too. Doesn't good critical involve deciding what not to think about? Okay. I can't top that.
Who's a good boy? Troy is. That's right. You're a good boy.
He is a good boy. Yes, he is. Bet. Yeah. Okay, Troy, I'm not even going to try it. I'm going to repeat my favorite phrase for these people: aggressive ignorance. I don't know, and I don't want to know. It's exactly the same as Fred Phelps in his Westboro Baptist Church. The Bible said it. God damn it. That's all I need to know. Discussion closed. Screw you, Troy. Seriously. You're an asshole. A bigoted asshole. Bigoted against your own gender, but doesn't change it. You think you're better than everybody else who doesn't think like you. That makes you a bigot. Look it up in the dictionary.
Yeah, and check your privilege. Privilege is the new original sin, and feminism died for your sins.
That's right. That's right. All right. Anybody want to add anything to that, or should we move on?
Yeah. Move on.
All right. Recently, the Canadian Association for Equality sponsored a lecture by Professor Janice Fiamengo that turned into a feminist drum circle. I had the unfortunate experience of trying to watch that live, and it was pretty much a repeat of what we saw a few times. It was very much like what happened at the Paul Nathanson and Catherine Young debate. They were in there banging things, blowing horns, chanting, singing, and doing everything possible to stop Janice Fiamengo from having the audacity to say something, anything critical of feminism, and to suggest that maybe men have problems that ought to be addressed outside the feminist narrative. How dare she? What is wrong with that labia treater?
Well, here's the deal. I mean, and this goes back to exactly what we were talking about before with the difficulty learning. I need to send out a thank you to those feminists, and I am dead serious. I'm not being sarcastic. I'm not playing. What you do when you attempt to abridge free speech, and when you attempt to shut down the open exchange of ideas, especially in a university setting where ideas are supposed to be challenged and they're supposed to be vetted and argued hotly between people. That is the classic, liberal education definition, is that people come together and test ideas. And so when you do this, when you try to shut down that speech and you try to shut down that standard, then you advertise for the men's movement. I'm going to point this out like you're mentally challenged, which I honestly believe you are. Understand that before November of 12, when Warren Farrell spoke in Toronto, at the University of Toronto, and the feminists there assaulted police and harassed students for going in and were shouting "fuck Warren Farrell" and trying to shut down the talk. AVFM was a moderate-sized website at that point. We immediately skyrocketed by going out and with the people that were breaking the law, we identified who they were, and especially the ones that were bragging about it on Twitter. We just simply helped them promote their own message by putting it out there. There's been a lot of footage taken of this recent talk with Dr. Fiamingo. Now, if somebody is protesting, we're not going to identify them because we actually believe that protest is a very good and healthy thing for society. But if somebody's violating the law, I won't hesitate to identify them. And what this does is it brings people in and they get to actually see that you're not about the open examination of ideas, that you're about fascism, that you're about repression, that you're about oppression, that you are corrupt, that you don't think your ideas can stand up to any challenges, that you don't think you can argue the merits, and that anybody that disagrees with you must be silenced. And every time you put on that example for the world, we go up on Alexa. We go up in our membership and our donations and the people volunteering to help us. You are driving what fuels the men's movement. So I'm not kidding when I say thank you. I appreciate it. I want you to come back to the next one and raise hell. We're having a conference in Detroit in June, at the end of June, with speakers from all over the world, and we have people coming from India, from Australia, from England, all over the planet, from Canada, to this thing, and there's going to be a lot of people there. So feminists, and we've got some seat left. Buy a ticket, bring your tin can, and come on down to the show, because this helps us more than you can possibly know. And what's really remarkable about this is that these feminists are not bright enough to look at this and as much as they hate to say it, to say, you know what, he's right. Us doing this does hurt us.
But you know what they're going to do? You know what they're going to do is they're going to hear you rant about that, and they're going to say, well, see, us feminists do help men, too.
Yes,
that's what they're going to do.
Well, we have validated that feminism does help men, and it helps them very much. But we're going to continue what we're doing. If you know, I advise you to catch up with the times, because the days of silencing us, oh man, that is so over. It's ridiculous. But please keep trying, because every time you do, it really charges our batteries. Thank you.
Got a death threat from a Twitter feminist recently, male feminist, of course. Whatever. I don't believe it, because I have a big deal about things like that. But no. The only way you are going to shut us up is to kill us, so there you go.
No.
What? Wait, don't say that. Okay, all right, fine.
Let's not give the lunatics any ideas, okay?
Don't worry, Tara. They'll only kill them.
Well, that's Sheehy's next book. Why feminists have a moral obligation to murder unarmed men's rights activists.
That's right. Oh no, this guy on Twitter actually said that. In fact, he clearly said feminism has a right to be violent because they're a legitimate social justice movement, and MRAs should be killable because they're not. So you know, we made a copy of that, and we'll keep his name handy, and that's the kind of bigotry and hatred we face. I don't think he's serious, but
you should Kickstarter and raise $1 million with that death threat, Dean.
I should go to Kickstarter. That's right, and say I want to show. See, these are the hate that I face. I need $150,000 to make videos
and if
exactly
you raise
like
that
I'm
money,
already
Dean, you could use it to make 2 YouTube videos.
I can make more videos exactly like the videos I already make, only with $150,000.
You can steal artists' work from just copying and pasting it off the internet.
That's right.
You don't even have to do your own work.
And if anybody in the audience wonders if we're talking about an Edith Sarkeesian, yes, we are. Anyway, okay. So yeah, these assholes did that, and they pulled the fire alarm again too. I really hope we got on tape whoever pulled the fire alarm, because we want to see people who commit crimes go to jail. Just like Paul said.
Elementary school, if a student pulls a fire alarm, they get suspended. What the hell are these universities doing? This is a public safety issue. Like these twats don't even get suspended from school or even a write-up. They do nothing.
It's a misdemeanor.
And I think Jonathan Taylor did that one where a boy like did this and he was suspended. That was it. This. So, for comparison.
Yeah, and these are adults who presumably know better than an 8-year-old who thinks it would be funny to pull a fire alarm.
Mm-hmm.
This is the mentality. This is the mentality of the people we're dealing with. They don't care if they endanger lives. They don't care if they compromise public safety. We're hearing something we don't like. Grow the fuck up, you dumb. Buh.
You can say it.
Not going to. Not ready. Not ready. Bossy.
The nice news about that is not only will there be a lot of video footage coming out in the next week or two, believe it or not, but we got a nice report from Cafe about how even after it was all over, people stuck around for more than an hour outside just to sit and talk and respectfully listen and have a dialogue about these issues that the thugs tried to stop from happening. So guess what? The message got out there anyway, guys, and that's the good news. So there's that. Now, I know Tara's going to want to tell us about this. I didn't get to read it, so she can tell me at least all about it. Judge Cynthia Brim in Chicago, my old hometown, was declared legally insane after assaulting a deputy sheriff and now wants her job back as a judge. Please tell me about this.
Yeah.
You're a fellow ginger. Make me proud.
Sometimes I read the news, and thank you to Kevin. Kevin, I won't mention your last name. I had another story lined up for today, and then this came in, and it's troubling. So as Dean said, Cook County Judge Cynthia Brim, back in 2012, assaulted a deputy, I believe, outside the courthouse, and she was suspended, but still collected her $182,000 salary, even though she was suspended for 2 years. And now she has found a psychiatrist who has said she's fine to go back to work because she's on meds now, and she wants her job back. And there is actually a panel of attorneys and I think some other judges and a couple of citizens who are deciding if this woman, African-American woman, I believe she's 51, 55, can't remember, who was declared legally insane, she's 55, sorry, can go back to work as a judge. And believe it or not, she's not a family court judge, which would make some sense. No, she's a traffic court judge.
It's my kind of town. Oh my God, nothing in Chicago.
Look, there are people who have, I believe the article I read said she was diagnosed with both bipolar disorder and schizoaffective disorder, which is an interesting combination.
Yay.
But look, she may be perfectly as medicated. She might be quite competent to be like a legal clerk, but no, somebody who gets to decide the fate of somebody's life, right? She's a traffic cop, so maybe she wouldn't have any, life-altering decisions aside from go to traffic school or pay this fine. But
I don't know.
No. Somebody who has been legally declared insane should not be sitting on a bench unless it's the bench outside of their psychiatrist's office.
Dr. T, do you know was she declared insane as a defense for the assault charge?
She was. Yes, she was.
Okay, so.
But it was not the first time she went cray-cray in a courtroom. Apparently, there was another incident, and she said she just broke like she was a pencil and was ranting from the bench. She wasn't diagnosed with it's a bipolar type of schizoaffective disorder. I don't even know what that means.
That ambiguity makes it scarier.
Yeah, Brim, who has been hospitalized at least 9 times for mental illness since 1994, acknowledged that she had once been carried out of a Bridgeview courtroom on a stretcher after going catatonic during her court call.
She was catatonic?
In the courtroom.
I'll actually school the psychologist on what bipolar schizoaffective is, because I have somebody in my family who has that exact diagnosis. Okay. It's classic manic depressive coupled with delusions and occasional illusions, but not declarable as schizophrenia. So basically,
I know what schizoaffective disorder is, and I know what bipolar disorder is, but I didn't know there was a bipolar form of schiz. I think they meant she's dually diagnosed with both bipolar disorder and schizoaffective disorder.
It's and I'm saying it's a judge, and it's like I don't even care if she's a traffic judge. I could just see her being in a bad mood one day and just deciding she's going to give everybody in this courtroom the maximum penalty she possibly can for every single infraction. Or she could just come in one day and say, "Oh, I'm sad." You're not guilty.
Not just that. It calls into question if I were before her and I didn't like my sentence, I would appeal it based on the grounds that, was she on her meds that day? Was she in her right mind? I mean, I think it compromises her. Obviously, it compromises her ability to be catatonic at work.
Well, I'm sorry. I hate it. I've had problems with depression myself. I have friends with mental illnesses, and I can't help but joke. I mean, I'm just sitting here saying, I find you something. Sitting there staring for 10 minutes and then go, crazy! I find you crazy! I don't.
What's really nuts is, honestly, though, she can't be any crazier than the system that she works in. And because I don't care if it's criminal courts or family courts or traffic courts, juvenile courts, whatever. All those people, the whole system is gone. It's been gone for a long time. So I'm going to play devil's advocate. I think we should not only let her have her job back, I think she ought to be nominated for the Supreme Court and have a position there, having an influence over the lives of millions of people instead of the few thousand per year that will come through her courtroom.
I will make this serious point. It's me. I'll pontificate a little, even bring my glasses down. I am often amazed by how many people forget that the judiciary is an arm of the government. And that judges are public officials, that they are politicians at heart. At their most fundamental basis, they are government officials. And I've seen over and over again, people seem shocked when we would dare to question a judge or question their decisions or question their competence, like you're doing something wrong. It's okay to do that to a congressman. It's okay to do that to a president, but how dare you question a judge? And the judiciary likes to hide behind that veil that robe of mystique. But I'm sorry, they're just people. They're just politicians. They're just government officials. And if the government's fucked up, so you can assume that the judiciary is too. That's my little rant.
Right. And I guess the reason I wanted to do this story today is it just, one, I have to wonder if this would even be entertained, the thought of her getting back on the bench, if this if she were a man, although maybe. Second of all, I mean, what kind of this is just seems to be an example of political correctness run amok. I feel bad, and I know I shouldn't, by saying I don't think somebody who's been declared insane, who has those kinds of mental health issues, no, I don't think they should be on the bench, because part of having those types of mental health diagnoses means that you might not have very good judgment, which, oh, I don't know, might make it difficult for you to be a judge.
No, to me, it's the same thing as saying, you know what, if you are prone to unpredictable epileptic seizures, you probably shouldn't have a driver's license.
Or be a heart surgeon.
Fair, but, huh?
Or be a heart surgeon, or do anything.
Or be a heart surgeon. Yeah, I'm sorry. You have seizures. That doesn't make you an inferior human being, but we're not handing you a loaded weapon, which is.
I have a question. Does this woman have any additional leeway from her connections in the court, like Mary Kellett did back in Maine, where there was somebody that was still vouching for her, really outside of her defense? Or there are people like.
Her psychiatrist, Dr. Ruin Rafayan, is vouching for her, but.
She's much better now.
The same person made the diagnosis.
She does stay on her meds and keeps it under control. You know, shit happens.
I don't.
She's educated. Maybe we can get her something in the military.
Oh God, I really do think it's an interesting question. Would they let a man back on the bench if he'd done this? I don't know.
Yeah, they would.
Yeah, they probably would.
He assaulted a deputy outside of the courthouse and pled insanity to get back on?
I don't know.
I think they might, because I really do think the system is that incestuous, like we see right now in Maine with Paul Kavanaugh, part of Mary Kellett's crew. I don't think these guys give a damn really about sex on either end. It's whether or not you're a team player. And if you are, they're going to cover each other's asses. That's the way things work. Oh. So I think a guy would have a pretty good chance. Oh
yeah, just like L.A. prosecutor Elizabeth Gertz is getting away practically with murder over there in L.A. County right now. She's getting a lot of help, getting her ass covered by the judges and the other attorneys. Same damn thing. Yes, people within the court system cover for each other. Hell, we've seen it many times. Family court attorneys, criminal attorneys drop the ball, and you think this is an incompetent attorney. No, sometimes it's an attorney who's just worried about their career and they don't want to ruffle any feathers. So they'll screw their clients. We've seen it. We've seen it
many times.
All right, we're getting near the end of the showtime here, and we have another story which I confess I have had no time to look at all, so you're going to have to fill me in on that one as well. The city of Glendale, California is going to provide sexual assault defense training, but only to women. Tell me more about that, Paul and Sage.
Yeah, I can feel this one. Harry Crouch from NCFM wrote this letter to the city of Glendale, criticizing them for only offering the sexual assault training to women and for Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And the criticism came, of course, men, to quote Harry Crouch, or to paraphrase him rather, he said that men are not born automatically experts in karate. They're going to need access to these resources. And I think the reason that I was definitely wanting to talk about this was because I really do think that the city of Glendale is going to find ways to kind of hedge this and equivocate. Right now they said that they're going to go and do research on federal law, and they're saying that it may very well be legal for them to only offer these classes to women. And Crouch is saying that no, it probably isn't. This is violating civil rights statutes. It's violating those principles for protection against sexual discrimination. And I actually have a quote here from a Lawrence Rosenthal, a law professor at Chapman University and former assistant U.S. attorney for the North District of Illinois. He said that if these classes are open to the general public, with the only restriction being the gender-based discrimination, then they may be considered illegal. But when I was working over at Kennesaw State University and auditing their rape aggression defense course in terms of their possible Title IX infringements, what I learned was that they could claim that they're offering it in a unisex manner, but they can still advertise it to women alone and still cover their asses. And I got legal counsel to talk to on that. So this, what's really unfortunate about this is they could only offer it to women and through their promotion and through their practice, but they can say it's unisex in nature in order to dodge the federal law. So this is a really nasty situation, and I'm hoping that we can at least get some additional awareness toward this, such that the promotion itself can be sexist and can cause.
But isn't this what domestic violence shelters and organizations do now anyway? They pay.
Yes, it is. In fact,
yes, we take calls from men, but they don't really provide any services.
VAWA is the perfect example. It's promoted and directed at women. There's some language in the statutes that are gender neutral, which is they're covering their little asses, but all the money, all the resources, everything else is going to women, and it's ignoring the struggles that men have with the same exact problem. So what the attorney, I think, is telling Sage, and what the attorneys may be telling Harry Crouch, is that basically, yeah, we know it's illegal, but we have a loophole, and we're going to use that. No surprise.
In case anybody's wondering, NCFM is the National Coalition for Men, an organization we strongly support. Harry Crouch is in charge of it. It would be interesting to see if there's any legal action from this. Paul, you're absolutely right. The Violence Against Women Act, for example, I've had people defend the Violence Against Women Act by saying, well, but a lot of the language is neutral, and there are some places that offer some services to men, but it's a fig leaf. It's a total fig leaf. It's a cop-out.
They were doing that in 967 in the California State Code when they're still just the one that's going through the legislature now. They made some amendments to make the language seem more gender neutral, but the practice is still obviously going to be very victim oriented, and the narrative is going to be for women. That's what it's going to be, and they're actually including more and more provisions to remove all responsibility for those who are deemed, quote, reckless or intoxicated, and it ends up to the point where the accuser is just flat out not allowed a case. And the code says this, is not allowed a case in the event that the victim is said to just make these accusations with just some made-up notion of victimhood.
John Hembling recently penned an editorial where he asked the provocative question, what happens when you have a group of people who are held accountable by the law but not protected by it, and you have another group of people who are protected by the law but not held accountable to it? That's the very definition of a society that discriminates, and that is what we face today. And yes, Amy T. Rold, or however you say your name, that is exactly what men face in society all over our legal system, and not just in family courts, in criminal courts too.
The thing is, Dean, is that the implication of John's question is very important, because historically, when you have that double standard, you have a class that is protected by the law but not held accountable, and a class that is held accountable by the law but not protected. The unprotected tend to take law into their own hands. This is what happens historically. This is the warning. And of course, this is what everybody's been warning about with MHRAs for a long time, saying that we're potentially violent. We have this, I think, a sham of a case up in Canada with a woman that says she was beat up and put herself on Facebook, and before she called campus security, and then had to be coached into talking to the police. But there are all these implications that they're trying to raise, that MHRAs have a potential for violence. It is MHRAs that are trying to prevent that violence. That's exactly what our purpose is to ameliorate those problems before they come to the point, because I do believe it will come to a point that there will be judges getting shot in family courts. I believe that it will get to a point that there will be assaults over this stuff, but not from MRAs. It'll be from guys who never heard of the men's movement, who are out there getting screwed, having their lives destroyed, and you do enough of that to enough people for a long enough time, all you need is a history book to tell you what's going to happen. And if you don't want to accept that, that's fine.
And it should again be stressed that if somebody were to commit assault or violence while trying to assign themselves the label of MHRA or MRA, that is not going to excuse them from the prosecution that's necessary to hold them accountable for their actions.
No.
And it doesn't mean we'll support them, because we'll not. We'll throw them under the bus real quick. But again, that's because the nature of our mission is to try to head these problems off. But they're passing laws now, like 967 in California. These things are like, if they were happening to anybody else, there would be riots in the street right now.
Yeah, and I think it went back to committee the second time, so it's getting there. It's almost there.
Yep.
Bishop Desmond Tutu during the apartheid era, and no, I'm not saying our situation is exactly the same. Stop. No, but Desmond Tutu during the apartheid era of South Africa said if things didn't change, there would be violence, and it would be inevitable. And he was called a terrorist for that. Of course, now the people who say that kind of slink away in shame because they know that Desmond Tutu was never a terrorist and never a terrorist advocate. But he was called a terrorist and a terrorist advocate for saying, if this keeps up this way, violence is going to be inevitable. There'll be no way of stopping it. And he's a Christian bishop who, you know, pacifist. So, yeah, I'm tired of hearing that we're violent because we say one of these days men are going to stop killing themselves and start killing family court judges. I'm frightened of that day. I don't want it to come, but
right.
It might.
I'm sorry.
Oh, well, I'm frightened of it, but I think it may come to it. I mean, and
well, yeah, to expand on what you and Paul were saying, it is true that if you were to look at a history book, anybody who's been under enough control of the state, just in any nation that you could look at, after enough time, when they're under conditions that their political participation is shot, people will go to violence because it's the only recourse they have as a way to assert their political power, and that is not something that we should go to whatsoever, so long as alternatives exist. And thank God there are alternatives. There are different ways that we can still do these things by the books in a formal way that can actually bring back and resist the tyranny that exists. So, frankly, it's just a matter of just reminding a lot of people out there that if the temptation for violence is there, remember there are alternatives, and there is really, I know this sounds rhetorical, but there is reason to hope, and it really has to go toward doing things by the books and just sticking with your community and finding the protection you need.
And I want to repeat something Dean said too, and not to, hopefully not to appear in the least bit ostentatious, but if you resort to violence or if you approve violence, then you're my enemy, and you're the enemy of this organization. And it is not because your anger is not justified. It's not because you don't have a right to be enraged. As a matter of fact, if you weren't enraged, there'd be something wrong with you. But as Sage just said, we have not reached the point where, or anywhere near it, where the idea of violence to me seems like a reasonable option. There are too many options, including one of them being going your own way, because one thing that is really great about the power of that is that a government can't fight it. There's nothing, literally, anybody can do about men checking out. And if enough men check out and go their own way, believe me, it will start creating some change. Because every society without men is fucked.
Yeah, and even the private sector, even Valentine's Day, that market, the whole thing doesn't know how to handle a man that's willing to say no and walk off. It doesn't know how to handle it.
And we need more women just plain willing to speak up and say, I have a problem and I want to talk about it. And I'm not going to be shamed into silence. And even to get back to it, we got men who are being abused. We're working on services for them. Certainly a good place to start for that is shrinkformen.com. Man, I don't want to end this on a downer. Oh, I know what the solution to all of this is. Smash the patriarchy. Tara, can you get that done for us by next week? Let's smash the patriarchy, and then all these problems will be gone, right?
Right.
All right, guys. Well, we've been going about 50 minutes, so it's about time to wrap it up. Paul, did you have anything else you wanted to add before we close tonight?
I want to remind everybody else that we still have several tickets left for the conference in June on the 26th, 27th, and 28th. Hopefully by tonight, tomorrow, I will have the notice up about Dr. Warren Farrell's workshop. We have more to do on that. Those tickets will be sold separately. And I also want to announce in the most sincere way that I can that I have one free ticket for Rebecca Watson. And if she comes to the conference, Rebecca, baby, I'll buy you a cup of coffee.
Excellent. Please take him up.
Oh, you
Rebecca,
bastard.
he's serious.
If
He's
she
serious.
goes, I'm taking the stairs.
He will do it. Okay, Dr. T, any closing thoughts for us this week?
If Rebecca comes, everyone take the stairs.
All right, if you are in an abusive relationship with a woman or think you might be, please check out Dr. Tara Palmatier's shrinkformen.com. If you just want to get more involved in the men's movement or learn more about this or educate people more about these issues we talk about, please be sure to check out the front page of avoiceformen.com, where we are also still doing our spring fundraiser for at least another day. See you all next week on Monday's Next Intelligence Report. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.